Thank you all for joining us here for our first quarterfinal match from the Star City Games Indianapolis Open, featuring Todd Anderson, the most accomplished player here on the SCG Tour, facing off against Owen Turtenwald, the current #1 player in the world. Both of them no strangers to the top 8 scene. For Todd, he has 27 lifetime top 8s, 6 wins. For Owen, this is his 9th top 8. He actually has 2 wins, including was the champion here 2014 in Indianapolis, that one with Mono Black Devotion.
Yep, I believe his other win was in Legacy with the Jeskai Delver deck. Won a Grand Prix with that deck as well, just like he won a Grand Prix with this deck.
Yeah, Owen, one of those players in Standard, often plays the consensus best deck and plays it very well. He's doing that this weekend with 4-color Rally. As we start the matchup, Todd with some fancy land sequencing. He starts on Bloodstained Mire, doesn't fetch it on end step, and then plays Sunken Hollow tapped.
Yeah, not clear how many land. I think it looks like Todd just has 1 more land in hand. He doesn't know exactly what he wants to fetch just yet. And against the Rally deck, the starts aren't too fast. He'll have some time to determine exactly how he wants to sculpt his mana base.
Yeah, he doesn't have to Fiery Impulse on turn 1 in this matchup. Owen's game starts at 2 with cards like Jace.
Right, Jace would be ideal for Owen. If Todd has a Fiery Impulse, that would be the ideal return. Looks like Todd has a Roast if there is a Jace.
It'll be a turn 2 Jace Vryn's Prodigy for Owen. So Jeskai Black, before Rally became the top deck at Oath of the Gatewatch, Jeskai Black was widely considered the best deck in the format. These are 2 powerhouses, and Todd really has a throwback build this weekend. Main deck Ojutai's Commands, Disdainful Strokes. It is all control cards and not a Mantis Rider in sight.
No, he's looking to win the game eventually.
Owen's turn 3. So will Todd answer the Jace? He has some options available. Looks like Roast in his hand, but I think he's going to go the way of mana efficiency. He's going to play the 3 mana card, and that is Crackling Doom. Vryn's Prodigy hits the graveyard. Owen will join Todd at 18, and the board is clear.
You don't get a lot of opportunities to Crackling Doom, a 0-power creature. Go ahead and get that now. Otherwise, it's mostly only going to deal with a 2-power creature out of the Rally deck.
Yeah, Crackling Doom on Jace. I mean, an Elvish Visionary, a Scion, a lot of things put a stop to that.
Yeah, just anything other than a Sidisi's Faithful.
So look at Todd's hand. You're right, no more lands in it. He has a pair of Roasts, an Ojutai's Command in hand, and a Kalitas. That's his threat. It's only 1 Kalitas in the main, but you have to figure it's an all-star in this matchup against such a graveyard-centric deck, at least game 1.
Right, the ability to exile creatures before they hit the yard as well as generate extra power for Todd. We frequently see Todd wait until he has Kalitas in play with enough mana to destroy a creature to dispatch them in the same turn and flip the game around entirely.
Big miss here for Todd. He did not hit his 4th land. So Owen played an Elvish Visionary, and Todd, after drawing Chandra, just passes the turn. He doesn't want to spend a kill spell on this 1/1.
Right, Roast on Elvish Visionary would be quite aggressive out of Todd.
I know, and not going to help many. Here's a 2nd Elvish Visionary. And 4th land for Turtenwald. However, it is a polluted delta. So right now, Owen does not have access to double white. He just has the single. And I believe he has a replacement Jace, though.
Right, and since Todd used the Crackling Doom on the first Jace, he still has access to Roast, actually 2 copies of Roast to deal with this Jace and another threat down the line.
Sure, looks like what Todd's going to do is he's going to end step Murderous Cut the Jace. This way, if he draws a land, he'll have mana open for something better.
Right.
And does he? Dragon Master Outcast is the draw, no help there. So he'll cast, pass the turn. Cat's out of the bag now between these 2 players. Todd, with 3 main deck Disdainful Strokes, caught a lot of the field by surprise. Now, Owen knows this since we're in the top 8, and now we'll see whether or not if that affects how much Owen wants to try to run out cards like Collected Company.
Right, Owen Turtenwald not the type of player who's going to run a spell into a counter spell if he can avoid it. And with Todd missing a land drops, Owen is under no pressure to start casting Collected Companies into blue and 1.
Big play here by Todd. It's Grim Haruspex and then Jace number 3. Todd drawing Fiery Impulse for the turn. Has 2 kill spells for them, but he only has single red. So he can kill the Haruspex and Owen gets a Planeswalker. Or if he wants to kill the Jace, Owen's going to get to draw an extra card.
Kind of in a rock and a hard place situation here.
Pick your poison here, Here, Todd. You want the Planeswalker or let Owen get the 2-for-1? It's going to be Roast. Now on who? Haruspex. So he'll leave Owen the Planeswalker. And There are no main deck dispels in Todd's deck. So Owen, if he has collected company, we'll get to know that. I can start firing them off. It looks like he'll loot with Jace, finds another land, and now flips it into the Telepath Unbound.
I think the reason that you see Todd going aggressively for the Haruspecs is one of his good draws here when he's struggling on mana is just to find Radium Flames to clean up Owen's board. And that's not especially good with the Haruspecs in play, with the extra bodies and the Visionaries laying around.
Yeah, pluses it on that Dragon Master Outcast, so no blocks there for Todd. The Visionaries beat him down to 13. And now land 4 at last for Todd, but is it enough?
Yeah, this opens up the ability to cast Kalitas, which you have to imagine that Owen's at a pretty reasonable percentage to find a Reflector Mage to make that not matter, and Todd's already down to 13.
And 7 and 8 have 19 points.
Yeah, these Elvish Visionaries have done quite the work.
Elvish Visionaries, fetch lands on Todd's side.
Todd will fetch down to 12, getting an island. So mana mostly good here. I think ideally Todd would have gotten a second red, however Flooded Strand doesn't give him that option.
Right. Yeah, ton of red spells in hand, but no way to get there. Also will eventually want double red for that Chandra should the game go that long. No ability to find it.
I wonder how it's going to deal with this Jace. Well, we'll find out. It's going to be Kalitas, Trader of Get, and just all sorts of peril for Todd. Collected Companies, Reflector Mages, they are all green lighted for Owen. This is a bit of a Hail Mary pass on Todd's side.
Right, Todd's looking at cast Kalitas or casting a removal spell on an Elvish Visionary. There's no way you're going to do that. If you take that line, you leave up a counterspell mana, but Todd has the Jason play now, or Owen rather has the Jason play, so you can have Company countered one time even if it was there and just flash it back on the following turn.
All right, well here's Collected Company for Owen. A little bit of a dexterity issue here, so he's going to call a judge, make sure everything's fine. I believe he accidentally flipped 2 here. We'll see how the judge chooses to resolve it. It will most likely just be a warning.
Right.
And we'll continue on.
Yeah, sometimes in situations like this, the deck will be shuffled before we find the 6th card or something like that. But no serious penalties, I imagine.
See what fix the judge chooses to do. So Owen has seen that card down. So what they're going to do is they're going to shuffle the deck. They're going to take the top card that Owen is going to reveal. Then they're going to shuffle the rest of the deck so Owen does not know the second card down. Then place that card back on top of it and finish resolving the Collected Company.
Right. They verify that nothing has been scribed to the bottom, so they don't have to track anything like that and shuffle the deck up.
No Catacomb Sifters, so we should be in the clear. There's the 6th card for Owen. Now, on this tournament, his Collected Companies have been pretty weak. This is no exception. 1 creature, it's Nantuko Husk.
No, that's not what you want to find, though. Does have access to start flashing that company back and get another crack at it.
Oh, yeah. And, I mean, when Todd made this play of tapping out for Kalitas, I assume part of this line was just him crossing fingers and saying, I really hope Owen's not going to Collected Company me here.
Right, or just untap and Reflector Mage me as well. And I think that's what we're going to see happen here in a second.
Well, it's an interesting decision by Owen. He can just play Reflector Mage here, or he could flash back to Company. Looks like the conservative play will be the choice. Here's Reflector Mage, then Eiley, and a swing.
Yeah, and Owen is just under no real pressure from Todd. And the next turn, Todd, the best he could muster here was Kalitas. Won't be able to do that again next turn. Owen is not going to take any risky line that he does not have to.
Right, so Todd has 1 main deck copy of Radiant Flames. That could do a great job cleaning up here, but the danger is that by tapping out for Radiant Flames, Owen has Rallied the Ancestors in hand, and it won't hurt too bad if that happens.
Right, and the Nantuko Husk will be sticking around on top of that.
So aggressive play by Owen. One of the Elvish Visionaries traded with the Outcast. The second Visionary, Owen just willingly sacrificed to the Nantuko Husk for an extra 1 point of damage.
Yeah, and with Todd down to 8, I like that line quite a lot. He's going to have to do something about the Husk, and it's hard to kill. You need something, a hard removal spell like a Crackling Doom or a Murderous Cut to deal with it.
5th land drawn by Todd. So we'll start by roasting Nantuko Husk. If Owen wants to save it, it'll cost him his remaining 2 creatures. So he'll sack 1, and he'll do it, sack 2. Roast doesn't work. Now Todd will continue on. Here is Polluted Delta.
And that can find a red source.
Right, it can get a black-red dual land, another Smoldering Marsh, provided Todd plays 2, which he does.
And we're going to see a second red spell aimed at that husk almost assuredly. And that
yeah,
will
he does
clean
have
it
a
up.
fire. There's 5 damage on the 6/6, so that fiery impulse in Todd's hand should be enough.
Right.
Now, there's a lot of danger here on Todd's side. First of all, there's a Jace on 7, so Owen can just flashback collect a company, no problem. If Owen wants to get very aggressive, he can try for Rally the Ancestors here, though he does have to watch out for the 3 main deck Disdainful Strokes in Todd's deck.
Right. Todd able to cast Fiery Impulse and leave up counter magic mana.
We know on our side that there's no Disdainful Stroke in Todd's hand as he finishes taking care of the board. We'll see whether or not Owen wants to make that gamble. From how I've seen him play this weekend, he tends to not gamble when he doesn't have to.
Not a gambler, but he has a collected company and 7 loyalty on his Jace. Very low risk to actually just running one out there.
Yeah, and that's a danger from Todd's side. So Owen could have flashbacked company's graveyard, but instead he's plussing Jace. If I'm a Todd Anderson fan, that's miserable for me.
Right.
And here's another company out of Owen's hand. Todd, a little bit of showmanship here. He has nothing, but what he has to do is make it seem like he's considering a counter spell. He wants Owen to believe that Todd could counter but chose not to.
Right. It's somewhat of a hard sell, though, considering that the Jace can just cast the company again.
Right.
Todd needs a lot more than one thing here.
Owen hits 5 power worth of creatures. It's Catacomb Sifter and Reflector Mage.
Still no access to a Zulaport Cutthroat anywhere, which would very easily put this game to a close.
Well, he may just do it via traditional damage. Todd is at 7. There's 5 power on Owen's board. He has a Reflector Mage in hand. I don't know if Todd can actually just survive the 2/3 aggro.
Yeah, he's in a very bad spot.
Down to 2. Owen, Rally and Reflector Mage in hand.
Todd will have access to Chandra on his following turn, which he could use to clear up Owen's board. Though Owen has access to a Rally the Ancestors, which will enable him to draw extra cards with the Elvish Visionaries and scry approximately 1,000 times with his Catacomb Sister.
Yeah, I mean, any of these sack outlets are such good value. Owen will take the Jace up to 9, so now we are looking at possible emblems. And here we go. Todd is going to make a move. End step, here's Ojutai's Command. I'm thinking we're gaining 4 life at the very least. See if there's a creature to get back. There is. It's Dragon Master Outcast. Todd could get some 5/5s into play here.
Yeah, he's up to 6 lands now. We see a Rally while Todd is tapped down.
Here we go. Owen going to rally back the Ancestors. Just 1 black up for Todd. He knows there's no Dispel's main, so it's a Haruspex, a Jace, 2 Visionaries, an Eiley, a Reflector Mage. So Owen draws 2 off the Visionaries, gets to bounce the Outcast, gets to draw 100 cards by stacking these things to Husk. This is... There's no way Todd can deal with this.
Yeah, Todd is, for all intents and purposes, just dead.
Draws a land. He can Chandra here? All right. Chandra Flamecaller is the play. -3, I suppose. Yeah, -3. He'll try to sweep the board. Now, Nantuko Husk is going to live through this.
Right.
And Owen is going to draw
Owen just has to
very many cards.
Right, find another copy of Rally or just some way to get 2 more bodies on the table, which could just be as simple as a Catacomb Sifter to make this Nantuko Husk lethal on the following turn.
Keep in mind, Owen Offgrim Haruspex draws a card for every creature sacked here. He's scrying before each one because of the Catacomb Sifter.
Right.
This is ridiculous. Well, just keep going through the cards here. They're going to die. Might as well turn them into cards.
Todd seeing if Owen will do something silly like sacrifice his Husk to itself instead of killing him.
I've done that on Moto. You click the Husk to me. If you double click the Husk at any point, it dies.
I don't think that Owen will be double clicking the Husk.
You know, you try to go through the turns too fast, you sack your own guy.
Right.
There's an out. And Todd's had enough.
Right.
So we are on to game 2. Owen Turtenwald looking to exact some revenge. He's up 1-0 on Todd Anderson.
You don't want to concede prematurely, but you also don't want to watch your opponent draw just 40 cards when you're at about 0%.
It's just so demoralizing.
Yeah, it just feels miserable.
All right. We're going to look at the sideboards between the two players. So on Todd Anderson's Jeskai Black build, he's got Monastery Mentors, extra copies of Radiant Flames, Dispel, Kalidas, Duress, Negate, Painful Truths, Roast, and Kolagon's Command. Now, a lot of these are cards he has in the main deck. He's really just adjusting the numbers of each one.
Right. Getting a configuration that is the most robust against a given matchup. So upping the number of Radiant Flames to keep Owen's board under control, Dispels for Collected Companies and Rally the Ancestors, Kalidas to try to exile creatures so that Owen can't set up a big rally, perhaps Negate to supplement the Dispels, and Painful Truce to gas back up.
Yeah, a lot of that's really great. You see Jeskai players frequently cutting cards in this matchup of like Crackling Doom, sometimes Murderous Cuts. I would think some of these Ojutai's commands are going as well.
Right, I would assume that all of those are just right out. You're only ever trading down on mana, even if it does net you a little bit of value. Maybe you leave one copy in for some corner cases, but you have quite a few good cards to be bringing in.
Last match, when they played in round 13, we saw Todd board in all his counterspells, so he kept all the Disdainful Strokes in, and he boarded in the Dispels. He didn't keep the Ojutai's commands. It was an interesting sideboard choice. So let's look at Owen's sideboard. As it's a 4-color rally deck, it's frequently a lighter sideboard.
Right.
I think he just wants to fight like as though Todd were a control deck.
Yep, Dispels and Duresses. You have access to Murderous Cut and Fleshbag Marauder, which could deal with Kalidas, but Todd does not have access to that many Kalidas. It's one in the main deck and one in the sideboard. Your plan is just to deal with those with the Reflector Mage. So it's pretty much just the Dispels to fight battles on the stack and the Duress to make sure the coast is clear for certain lines, as well as to just take care of what's going on in Todd's hand.
Certainly makes sense. Players here are going to get ready for game 2 of the match. Now, if you were joining us last weekend in Washington, D.C., you got a great Grand Prix. I know I was actually out there playing as well as a player, but next Star City is proud to announce we have another Grand Prix coming up. That one's going to be in 2 months. It's Grand Prix Charlotte, part of the Modern Weekend along with Grand Prix LA. So no matter which coast you're on, there's Magic to play this weekend. GP LA on the west and GP Charlotte on the east. So we have a lot of things to offer this weekend if you make your way out. First of all, we have the Jace playmat that's given away to all main event competitors. And for those of you who don't play Modern or maybe can't play the entire event, all purchase of a 3-day Infinite Challenge bracelet also comes with this as well. So this is the Pour Over the Pages Jace playmat. So you get that, and of course, get the Grand Prix promo of Stoneforge Mystic and a month of Star City Games Premium. Now, these premium Worth packages also give you an option for some more excellent stuff. I'm personally a fan of this Noble Hierarch playmat. Sleeves, deck box, and pin, those are available as rewards. And if you're coming for the whole convention, we have a lot of extra stuff on the side as well. So Artist's Alley with our guest of honor, that's Rob Alexander. He'll be in attendance with a lot of his prints for sale and products, as well as there to sign cards and just meet the people who draw the art on the things you play with. So they'll be there along with a whole roster of artists that you can see on the screen here, along with cosplayer Christine Spranko will be in attendance. So you can learn more, find out maybe what cards these people illustrate, everything that'll be going on this weekend, including the Infinite Challenges, at starcitygames.com/GP Charlotte. Pre-registration is now open.
Very exciting event. Saw that RK Post's in attendance. When I first started playing, he was easily my favorite artist. I started playing when Legions was the new set. He did the art for some really cool cards out of that block, like Visara the Dreadful.
Yeah, my favorite RK Post one, I believe there was a old Pro Tour promo Avatar of Woe, which he did, and it was pretty rare, and that was great.
Yeah, did the art for the original Avatar of Woe. Just creatures that tap to destroy target creature. I guess they commissioned them to RK Post. A lot of really cool, like, demonic things that he ends up drawing.
Yeah, he's definitely a black mage, at least with the paintbrush.
Right.
All right, some updates from across the brackets. In the 1v8 matchup, Trevor Petrelli takes game 1 over Noah Strassler. That's a rally mirror. On their side of the bracket, number 4 seed Ray Perez, Grixis Control, takes game 1 off Robert Wright's Esper Dragons build. We're going to try to bring you that one if possible. And the last part of the bracket, that's the side that will play the winner of this match. Andrew Funkhauser, number 2 seed on 4-color rally, up a game over Obzon Aggro and Anthony Eason.
Head to the judge area now.
So a bit of a different texture that game. When we saw these players play in round 13, that game felt the same, except instead of Todd missing a 4th land, it just felt like every turn he was playing another kill spell, and then eventually a dig through time happened. And it just never stopped. You know, it was these 1 and 2 mana kill spells, 1 or 2 a turn, every turn of the game.
Right. So when it comes to the rally deck, there's a lot of very different looking creatures, though what the deck is doing is just kind of messing around, playing whatever 2 and 3 drops it draws and building up to this inevitability. So while the games look very different, the deck is very consistent in what it does. The pressure is on Todd to find the right answers at the right time, and the biggest issue for him was just the mana development. He just couldn't do anything he wanted to do, and his spells were a little bit awkward on top of that.
That much makes sense. We'll be underway shortly here for game number 2. And it wasn't so much that Todd was unable to deal with cards like Collected Company. It was really just a mana issue on Todd's side.
Right. It's entirely possible that if we get to cast Chandra Flamecaller on time, that Todd pulls very far ahead in that game.
All right, both players have kept 7s, and we are underway. Todd starting off with a Polluted Delta. Players will trade here. Looks like Todd does have one of his Soulfire Grandmasters in his opening hand. Now, if you've been watching us all weekend, you've known that card can really be a beating in Todd's deck. Made his way up to 42 life against a rally deck earlier this tournament.
Yep, the life game definitely adds up just with the beatdown plan from the rally deck. And with all the counter magic in Todd's deck, it's going to be hard to do more than just play 1 creature at a time. Inevitably, the Grandmaster starts buying back removal spells, and then you're just in a whole world of trouble.
Well, he could go for the Grandmaster, or he can play the best 2-drop in the format. That's Jace Vryn's Prodigy.
I like that play better.
On turn 2, that card is just unbelievably powerful. And you look at the rest of Todd's hand, and these are the hands that when I watch this deck, I wonder if it has any bad matchups. I mean, he has a 3rd land, a Soulfire Grandmaster, a Painful Truths, a lot of 1 and 2 mana removal to go with it. Just
right. And certainly post board, when you're able to really line up against the strategy that you're playing against, just have just an abundance of the correct answers, nothing that awkwardly lines up left in your deck. Todd's deck is going to look excellent in most post-sideboard games.
Elvish Visionary for Owen. 4th land drawn for Todd on turn 3. So he has lands 3/4, Kalitas, Soulfire, Painful Truths, and Roast. Hardly a bad card in sight. He's going to fetch first, try to build up that graveyard. Seems straightforward that he can Painful Truths here, he can Soulfire Grandmaster.
Yeah, so long as he does not have to discard, I think you just go ahead and gas up with the Painful Truths.
Yeah, and that's the draw 3. It'll bring Todd back up to 7 cards. I know, right? Jeskai Black, 7 cards in hand. What a surprise.
Todd's right at home with 7 in hand.
Never does Todd not have 7 cards with this deck. Draws a 2nd copy of Kalitas, Chandra, and Dig Through Time. Not a problem, though, to have 2 of the legendary creatures. See, Jace just kind of fixes all those problems for you.
Right. For now, Todd has no red mana and still is missing the 2nd black. If he can find a Smoldering Marsh in the next turn, that'll smooth things out quite a bit for him.
Okay, yeah, he doesn't have the red. I believe he has a land in hand, but questionable whether or not it can get red. Owen's got to know he's behind at the moment, but how does he catch back up?
I believe the ideal turn for Owen here is to Reflector Mage the Jace if he has access to that, to slow Todd down some.
Yeah, that seems great. It gets opens the way for some attacks. Now Todd has gone to 15 off some fetches and Painful Truths.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe Owen can temple him out. The difficult part is if he does that, there's a chance that Todd's play next turn is just land, fetch, Soulfire, Roast the Mage, go to 20.
That'd be a solid turn of events. Make no mistake.
So here we go. It's the play talk about a Reflector Mage turn 3 from Owen. It'll hit the Jace. A Loot will discard the extra Kalitas. Everything according to plan so far.
Although, while Rally is not a traditional combo deck in that it does not go arbitrarily large, it is capable of dealing quite a large amount of damage.
Go back to Todd. He's got Bloodstained Mire and Mystic Monastery as lands. So no real problems where colors are concerned.
Right. And with Todd ending the last turn at 7 with the Reflector Mage returning the Jace, He's up to 9 cards. This land puts him down to 8. He'll want to play something on this turn so he doesn't have to discard it, being mindful of the fact that Owen will have his first crack at potential collected company mana on the following turn.
It's going to be Soulfire and Roast. That was the player you mentioned here. So Todd will tap out. It gives Owen a chance to company, but Todd goes up to a healthy 18 life.
Right. And Todd down to 6 cards in hand, though still very likely that there's a lot of interaction left over. Owen knows about 1 copy of Jace, but he has to wonder about what the best way to develop his board given the possible answers out of Todd is.
And Owen, he's going to seize on the opportunity. Here's Collected Company. And this is an interesting cat and mouse game that happened. So Todd tapped out here because he didn't actually have the counterspell for Collected Company and figured, well, it's going to happen anyway. Might as well just make my best play. Now, with the way Owen's been playing, had Todd left up mana, I'm not certain that Owen would be firing this off.
Right. He generally doesn't play into blue mana that he doesn't have to. One thing about Todd's hand, though, he is building up to a Chandra Flamecaller, which is more than enough to fight through 1 or 2 Collected Companies.
Yeah, I mean, Todd's hand's excellent here. So maybe rather than having trying to be a control deck, he's really just inviting Owen to play his best cards, and so what?
We'll figure this one out later.
Yeah. 2 wizards into play for Owen. It's Reflector Mage and Jace Vryn's Prodigy, bouncing the Soulfire back to Todd's hand. And Todd will draw. He now has his 3rd Jace in hand. That's a little too much.
Yeah, after the Mage that bounces the first Jace, with the inability to loot with any of them, getting stuck with 3 in hand is a very awkward position.
Todd, lots of cards in hand, but now he's behind on the board. Chandra should fix things for him, but he'll start with Dig Through Time. Really wants to get those land drops. Maybe find a Radiant Flames. That'd be a big win for Todd.
Definitely motivated to deal with Turtenwald's Jace this turn, because on the next turn it will flip into a Planeswalker.
Some great tools here. He's got Radiant Flames, Disdainful Stroke, Dispel, untapped lands. See what combination he goes for. He may just... Radiant Flames land seems great.
I'm inclined to take Radiant Flames land. I don't believe he has a 6th land that he can play untapped.
Yeah, his last land in hand is Mystic Monastery.
So he won't be able to do this into Chandra next turn, but he's still building up to Chandra.
I suppose I would say he could take Disdainful Stroke, but he doesn't actually have a blue mana up. So that's probably out.
Right, for this turn, that's not going to matter too terribly much.
Right, so he goes for Mountain Radiant Flames. Except for rather than leaving up mana, he's just tapping out.
And the fact that we started the turn by tapping all of our blue mana, I think that's kind of what the plan was going in, though Todd makes sure to assess all the options.
All right. Land 5, Radiant Flames, X equals 3, keeps the board clean. Back to Owen. This does pressure Owen to have another rally, say, in his hand.
Right. Collected Company would be great here. The graveyard is not quite rally ready.
No rally for Owen. It is 5th land and Nantuko Husk. It's got to be a win for Todd. That one's a fine play, but certainly nothing backbreaking.
Yeah, nothing like a Catacomb Sifter or a Grim Haruspex in Owen's graveyard just yet, so even a value rally wouldn't generate too terribly much value.
Yeah, Owen does have a rally in hand. Now, with that Evolving Wilds in play, he'll have double white starting next turn. What Owen's going to do is going to crack the fetch land for 6th land and play Kalitas Jace.
Yeah, Todd decides to get a little bit aggressive here. I like it.
Well, if Owen does not bounce that Kalitas, then Todd's going to play Chandra Flamecaller, deal 3 to the whole board, and that will likely end the game.
Right, just on the spot.
I suppose it depends on how many things Owen has, but Owen can, there's no real way around it.
Owen does have the Rally in hand, which gives him access to the Reflector Mage.
Okay, so he could value Rally here, draw some cards, flip that Jace.
Right, gets the Jace back.
That may be what he has to do.
Right, and then on the following turn, Jace can flash back the Collected Company.
The more you talk about it, the more this doesn't seem half bad for Owen.
Right.
If he does not make that play, boy, if the Chandra Kalitas combo ever happens, maybe lights out. Unless Todd's at a very low life total.
Right. Which at 16, he's very far from being pressured on the life front.
So first quarterfinal match finished. Andrew Funkhauser, a 2-0 winner over Anthony Eason. That's the number 2 seed. He now awaits the winner of this match, Funkhauser on 4-color rally. So Todd will either have to make his way through a sea of rally decks, or Owen will get to play the mirror. Here's that rally. It's a rally for 3 by Owen. He gets back 2 Reflector Mages, Jace Elvish Visionary. So he draws a card, bounces Todd's board.
And he has a Husk that can attack for quite a lot of damage here.
Oh boy, here's Nantuko Husk swinging. He can readily sack 3 of the guys, and he will. So that's a swing for 8. Todd will drop to 8. The reason Owen doesn't sack the Jace is on his next upkeep, he can loot and turn it into a Planeswalker, so it won't be exiled.
Right, he has different plans for that one.
And if he found another rally in there, remember the next rally is just lethal. That was a swing of 8. He can do it again. Lots of cards by Todd, but this doesn't seem to matter at the moment. It's his lack of Dispels and Disdainful Strokes this game that seems to be catching up to him.
Right. Todd is in an interesting spot with the Chandra Flame Color in hand. So it's interesting. Without a counterspell, Todd has to be wondering if he can beat Rally the Ancestors whatsoever. If Owen puts that spell on the stack, does Todd have any path to victory? So if you assume that that's not the case, let's say he plays Chandra this turn. And yeah, I was just going to say that he has the options to do it for 2 or for 4 to make sure you clean up the Husk. And I think it's very smart to take care of the Husk this turn.
Chandra -4. This is an X, so the concern is that if the Jace flips, then the Collected Company probably beats Todd. If the Husk lives, a Rally or a Collected Company beats Todd. So he's going to give up his best card in the matchup to clean the board and survive until another turn.
Even a Catacomb Sifter would beat Todd. He could just sacrifice the Jace.
Exactly,
and then,
everything.
Right.
So now Todd plays 7th land. Tapped out. Todd has a full grip. And maybe if Owen's out of gas in the form of Collected Companies and Rallies, maybe Todd's okay here.
Yeah. High risk, high reward play is that Chandra there.
Big fan of it, though. So Owen, he's going to commit the board. Here's in Jace and Husk, 2nd copies of each. So Todd facing now the exact same board he did before. He now can play Jace and Kalitas again. Now the concern is that he doesn't actually have any more kill spells.
Right, but the peel for Todd this turn was Dig Through Time, and I have to imagine that's where we're starting.
Right, so he's going to start with the Dig. What he would have loved to have had was something like Kalitas Radiant Flames, something that just wins. I don't think he'll get that this turn, but as long as he doesn't let Owen, he just can't let this Jace flip, right? If the Jace flips or the Husk lives, if either of those happen, it's dangerous.
Yeah, Todd is far from out of the woods. He did survive that dicey turn of tapping out. Now he has a bit more to figure out.
All right, so he's looking for removal spells. Fiery Impulse, Roast, those are both available. Murderous Cut, and then a slew of lands. So he gets 2 kill spells off the Dig. It's a great start for him.
There are combinations of 3 cards in this Dig Through Time pile that would solve all of his problems.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he has to stick with 2.
So he has Cut, Roast, Impulse for removal. He has Disdainful Stroke for counterspell and Painful Truths for a drawer.
So he has a copy of Soulfire Grandmaster in hand. What I think we might see happen is he takes the Fiery Impulse and the Disdainful Stroke, casts the Grandmaster, casts the Impulse, leaves up Stroke for any big spell out of Turtenwald.
Yeah, so he won't get to gain any life off the Impulse if he does that because of the Husk.
Right.
He would get to kill the Jace, but he would not be able to kill the Husk here.
Right. He would have a chump blocker in place if things got terribly out of hand.
Possibly just takes the 2 red spells, which kills both guys on the board.
Yeah, that is an option, though it does leave him in trouble against any future Collected Companies or Rally the Ancestors.
Yeah, and he determines that is too big of a cost. He's going to take Disdainful Stroke and 1 of the red removal spells.
And it looked like the Impulse. He's going for this mana-efficient play to cover all of his bases, though not 100% on the Nantuko Husk front.
Yep. So here we go. As you mentioned, Soulfire Grandmaster is the first play. Now here is Fiery Impulse. It's going to be on... Okay, so it's on Husk. Okay, so either... This is cute. If Owen wants to deny the life gain, he'd have to sack the Husk to itself, which he'll do.
Mm-hmm.
So Owen gets to keep the Jace.
And Todd also knows that it can only be 1 Rally or 1 Collected Company this
Exactly,
turn.
And he has the Disdainful Stroke for it. So there are some top decks. Say if Owen played a land and had a Collected Company in hand, this would be really bad for Todd. It would be 2 companies. But Owen drawing a land here. He has 2 lands in hand, so he's going to fetch with the first one. He still has something to discard to the Jace. He wants to thin his deck. 8 mana is not so bad anyway. Ideally, he'll find 2 companies.
Right, he's hoping that this Jace will find him that second collected company.
So deck now thinner. This Jace loot for Owen is a very big deal. If this one misses, he may be in trouble. Draw, it finds a fetch. That is a miss. Owen, land, black spell. He really doesn't have much choice except to go for this rally or collected company, but I don't think it's going to work.
He can also just bubble the Soulfire Grandmaster and wait for his draws to shape up, but that might be a greater risk than playing into a counterspell right now.
I mean, Owen's pretty savvy, so based on the way Todd made that decision, the way that Todd only played 1 kill spell, not 2, if I'm Owen, I think there's a counterspell here.
Right.
And if I think it hard enough, and Owen may, if he's so sure that there's a kill spell here, well, then he has no choice but to plus.
And if he minuses, the Jace goes down to 2, and then the Grandmaster just kills it on the following turn, but he's going for it.
He's got to call him. I mean, if Todd has a counterspell, things are very poor for Owen anyway.
Another consideration is if he waits, then Todd is able to cast Disdainful Stroke and return it to hand with the Grandmaster.
He passes the turn, so now Soulfire will take down Jace. I believe Owen actually has a Murderous Cut, but he knows there's a Kalitas in Todd's hand, so that may just be enough to stop him from doing it.
Right.
Saving the Jace is actually not very relevant there anymore. There's nothing good in the graveyard. As a Planeswalker, Jace is not always excellent in 4-color Rally.
Yeah, Owen knew about this Jace and this Kalitas. Both of them are more enticing targets for the Murderous Cut than the Grandmaster.
And Todd may have just turned the corner. Kalitas is in play. Owens draws Zulaport Cutthroat. He's got Todd down to 9, but he has a run out of resources. Todd's about to get a Planeswalker to flashback Dig Through Times, a Kalitas. He's got tons of life gain, ways to rebuy his spells. I think we've reached the end for Owen Turtenwald.
Yeah, once this Jace flips, becomes relatively easy for Todd to find more counter spells to lock up all of Owen's good top decks.
So what Owen has to consider is what's the best creature to remove. He decides the card he cannot beat is Jace. If Jace flips, then Todd 100% has a Dig Through Time, so he'll kill it. But Todd's got 5 power of lifelink. This is not good, it's just serviceable.
Right.
Here's Zulaport Cutthroat. Dig Through Time from Todd. Now, I believe he has the mana to get Dig Through Time back to his hand with Soulfire Grandmaster.
Oh my. He'd have to remove some cards from his graveyard, but I don't think that that's any big concern to Todd.
It's possible he doesn't. He doesn't need to, so he doesn't. But
yeah, you might not want to tap that low. You just want to leave up counter mana.
But it's a sweet play.
Right.
You're right. He probably doesn't make it. So when I look at my card drawers, I just want them to be better, so I always want to make that play. This is why Todd is in the top 8 of the tournament.
And we see Todd crack a fetch land to fail to find because that's +1 mana on casting Dig Through Time.
Sure. So 5 in yard. He will max delve the Dig Through Time. Not going to rebuy it. Okay. Fair enough.
Figures that Owen does not have a rally in hand yet, so wants to find that counter spell before he lets Owen draw a card.
Disdainful Stroke and Roast are the picks. This should be a lock. Starting next turn, he'll have Soulfire with Disdainful Stroke and Soulfire with Roast. So he'll have answers to every creature and counters for the Haymaker spells. It's not a complete hard lock, but it should be a good enough lock to end the game.
Right. Goes for Roast now. No reason to have the ability to recur Roast and Stroke.
He doesn't need it. He gains 5 here, gets a zombie. The Cutthroat's exiled.
Right.
We're looking at what's likely to be a concession here. Owen drawing Collected Company. He'll give it a spin, but...
Right. And the Stroke is just the only thing that matters right here. Todd doesn't quite have lethal just yet. So there are some small percentages that Owen can pull this one out, but...
He could draw another company next turn, company into a Jace, flip it, get another company.
Owen needs to
rally.
Owen needs to top deck, and the control deck needs to not top deck.
So I'm actually interested to see if Todd counters this. Yeah, he's not going to. That Disdainful Stroke is just for Rally the Ancestors. And in what's been fashion for Owen all tournament, he hits 1 card off the Collected Company.
Right, and that one...
his Collected Companies... If this is how he's been Collected Company all tournament, then this top 8 finish by Owen Turtenwald has got to be the most impressive event of the year.
No kidding. And that Husk just doesn't pose any significant threat. It could trade with the zombie token or the Grandmaster. No issues for Todd on either of those fronts.
Now Owen goes to 4, Todd to 23. Here's a Jace, pass, draw of rally. All right. Well, if you're Owen, I think you've seen your out that you know isn't working, but
So
let's do it anyway.
Not only did Todd not take the bait last turn, but he drew another counter spell. So while Owen did top deck and Todd needed to top deck, not only did Todd not waste his first card.
Yeah, not only did he play it right, but then he
found a backup.
Had he played it wrong, he just would have just gotten there anyway.
Yeah, that's a no-win scenario.
All right, so we're headed to the decisive game 3. This is Todd Anderson versus Owen Turtenwald.
Both players double checking, seeing if there's any reason to get fancy during sideboarding. These are untimed rounds, so there's no reason not to be diligent, and of course players of this caliber are going to check and double check, especially in such a high pressure matchup.
Yeah. So we're looking at cards like Monastery Mentor. Sometimes you see Jeskai Black players go to that card in matchups which are low on removal. We have not seen Todd use that one post board here yet against 4-color Rally.
Big reason for that is Todd wants access to a bunch of Radiant Flames. The cards play rather awkwardly together. Todd just wants plays that are efficient on mana. He's already trying to set up Kalidas plus removal spell. There's no really reason to pinch himself on mana to try to set up Mentor plus removal spell in a matchup like this.
For Todd Anderson, player from Roanoke, Virginia, probably the most accomplished player here on the Open Series. He was the finalist in the Players' Championship last year, losing to Jim Davis in the finals. But he has 27 Open top 8s, an Envy win, 6 Open wins, 3 Invitational top 8s. Quite the storied career here. Originally from Alabama, now lives in Virginia. And apparently the best NFL Blitz player ever. Nothing superlative at all in that one.
Yeah, I probably know 2 or 3 that are better than Todd, but I will not dispute the most Open Series top 8s of all time. Make that +1.
Yeah, this is his 27th top 8.
Looking to lock up a 7th win, going to Game 3 against Owen Turtenwald.
Well, impressive match here.
I imagine that Todd wishes that he was playing Owen in NFL Blitz, even if he's not the greatest ever. I assume he's better than Owen.
Maybe. I don't know how much NFL Blitz Owen played. So Owen is younger than Todd, so maybe it's probably in Todd's favor.
Right.
You have to be a certain age where you played NFL Blitz.
Yeah,
Todd's about the right age to be very good at this game.
Right. Todd would have probably been in high school when NFL Blitz came out.
Perfect.
Where Owen would have been a small child.
Yeah.
10 or 11 years old.
Right. So, I mean, 10 and 11-year-olds play a lot of video games.
But they're not good. They just play a lot.
Sometimes. Yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe Owen was just exceptional at video games.
I used to think I was good at video games, and then I started playing them against people who are 10 and 11, and boy, I don't think that anymore.
See, I used to think I was good at video games until I saw people that were actually good at video games. Not just 10 and 11-year-olds, I mean the professionals.
Twitch TV really destroyed my confidence in video gaming skills.
Absolutely.
You watch the people play, it's like, oh.
I'm really into Pokemon speedruns.
You can't, that's not a, what do you mean? You can't, okay, so I love the Pokemon series, but being good at playing Pokemon, that doesn't mean anything.
But it's not just about being fast. It's also at assessing damage ranges, because damage is not just set. Like in Magic, when you attack for creature, you attack for 2 with your Reflector Mage. In Pokemon, when you use Water Gun against a fire type, you're doing somewhere between, say, 33 and 42 damage as a range.
So the moves have variable range damage?
There's a lot of memorization. You're also calculating percentages, which is very important when you're talking about beating times by a factor of 1 or 2 minutes.
Talking about like the animation time on them because I have to go another round in the fight?
No, not yet. There's the other round in the fight. There's an issue with critical hit text that wastes about a second on your frames.
So you don't want critical hits?
Right. You don't want critical hits.
You
don't want to use super effective moves if you don't have to.
This is more of an optimization problem than a strategy at this point.
Yeah, but the thing is, if you're good at optimizing, you're probably good at just playing.
So, all right, here's the question, though. When you played it, would you get a whole team and try to keep them all at the same level, or would you just have one Pokemon that you just got really, really high level, and he just killed everything.
I would get a Blastoise. That's what I would do.
Just Blastoise. He'd be so higher level that he just beat up your rival would have a Venusaur, and you'd be like, well, Blastoise is 20 levels higher, and you'd one-shot him.
I don't mess around with video games. Not only do I just raise one Pokemon, but I over-level it. So my Blastoise was like level 80 the first time I beat Pokemon.
I was a player who had to have all my guys had to be the same level all the time. It was a lot of work. There were a lot of invisible rules I had to follow playing it.
That's gross.
Yeah, I know. Game 3, Owen versus Todd. Both players are going to start on Sunken Hollows.
2 of the 4 colors unlocked for each player.
Yeah, 4-color rally. Everything but red. Jeskai black, everything but green. And we always are looking for those turn 2 Jaces in this matchup. Now, it looks like Owen does have one. They're scarier off Todd's side, as Owen never kills them.
Right.
And this is dangerous. Todd, not only can he not kill Owen's Jace, he does not have the land to play his own. And looking at Owen's hand, this is huge danger. Owen loots into a second copy of Collected Company.
Jeez.
If he starts hitting these on curve, there's going to be no letting up.
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure on Todd to find the right mix of cards really quick. Jace is threatening to flip on the following turn. If Owen has another card that can go to the graveyard, say a fetch land, and then the activation. Todd already has Dispel in hand. I don't believe there's any Fiery Impulse. No third land either.
Oh, wow. So his turn 3 play is Jace go. Owen can steamroll here if he hits a good Collected Company. Hits Reflector Mage, he's off to the races.
Game 1, we saw Anderson lose on the back of stumbling off mana. Really bad way to go out in Game 3.
Yeah, is it possible that Todd's hand was a mulligan? It was just too slow here?
It's possible. One of the big things he's banking on here, he has 2 copies of Painful Truth, so he has to figure if he finds a third land, he can play untapped on turn 3. He's at a very high percentages to have a very serviceable hand going forward and be able to manage Turtenwald. But the fact that he's bricked is very problematic, and if Turtenwald has a Reflector Mage on this turn, he's even further off of activating that Jace.
I feel like Todd either needs a turn 2 Jace or an answer to Owen's turn 2 Jace. He had neither, and now Owen just presses the advantage. Here, flips the Jace, casts Collected Company, see if Owen can hit a good Collected Company. It's medium. It's medium. No Reflector Mage, that would seal it up.
Reflector Mage would be excellent here. His find is not bad.
No, it looks like it's Haruspex Nantuko Husk. Also has the option for Visionary.
I like having 2 Nantuko Husks against an opponent that's not demonstrating the ability to remove more than 1 in the same turn. Enables you to apply pressure in a very significant way.
So Todd draws the land. So we have a game, but it's going to be real tough. He's going to need a sweeper. He's going to need to dispel these additional Collected Companies. He's going to need to not die in the meantime. And also, Grim Haruspex in play. He's going to draw Owen a lot of cards. There's all sorts of peril.
Todd's hand is just a bunch of counterspells, which don't especially matter when he's behind on board. What he's thinking about right now is whether or not he should cast Painful Truce. If he does, he'll both lose 3 life and have to discard some cards. But if he doesn't, he's just dying to 6 power on the table. That's a 3-turn clock if Owen does nothing else. Notably, Todd also doesn't have any counters that matter against Owen just casting creatures. If Owen goes for Collected Company, sure, Todd can counter that. Owen has shown that he is not looking to commit against counterspells that he does not have to.
So Todd's play is to make that Flooded Strand, not crack it, discard a Jace off the loot, and then just passed. We go to Owen's side. His hand is land, Collected Company, Catacomb Sifter, so he'll play the land, swing the team. Todd will take. That's 7. Todd's down to 11. A lot of options here for Owen. A Company in his hand. A Company he can flash back with Jace. We'll just go for Catacomb Sifter. No sense in making the counterspells in Todd's hand live, especially not when you have lethal attacks, what is it, next turn?
He's 1 point off lethal with what's on board, but one more creature is food for a husk, and that makes it lethal.
Yeah, I mean, well, Todd has the fetch land too, and you have to assume that Todd has to crack it.
Right.
So, Sifter on the stack. Todd's going to make a play.
Your next round pairings are posted.
It's going to be a murderous cut. Cut on Grim Haruspex. Fair enough.
What Todd really is doing is knocking the top of his deck for a Radiant Flames here.
It would only, that wouldn't even be good. It would, both husks would live. At least Owen wouldn't be drawing 3 cards.
Right.
But it's not, doesn't save him.
No.
I agree. It's probably the draw he wants. That's part of the problem.
Yeah, you're absolutely right that Radiant Flames isn't good enough, and I can't think of anything that's even comparable.
You know, Radiant Flames, Owen keeps both husks, has Todd at least 6, maybe lower. Just plays some creatures, plays a company out of his hand on Todd's tapped board. As long as he finds a Sifter and something else, wins the game immediately.
Right, and that Murderous Cut removing cards from Todd's graveyard means he won't be able to flip the Jace on this turn, so he can't bubble anything. Won't be able to leave Jace back as a blocker that will flip on the blocks or anything like that.
Todd's draw a black card. A Kalitas draws not a land. Dig through time. So dispel, Jace, truths, dig through time. Stuff. That's a lot of counterspells, a lot of card advantage, but no lands, no removal. That is not going to work against Rally.
Yeah, Todd just doesn't have any lines here.
He's trying to figure out a way to make these cards fit. You're right, you know, he wants lands and roasts early on.
Right.
These are the cards he wants in the late game, but he has all of them.
He had the option to cast Painful Truce earlier, decided against it, and on this turn, if he casts it, he's just dead on board to Owen's creatures.
Yeah, I mean, the Painful Truce earlier, he really didn't have the window for it.
He could cast Truce for less than 3, but, you know, why even bother?
Well, he's just dead. He goes, there's 8 power on the board. Well, 7, but the Scion makes it 8.
Right, just sacrificing that to one of the husks, and
yeah.
It's not like Owen doesn't have the ability to make more creatures in the following turn.
So Todd's trying to think of a way that Owen could screw this up, which is fair, but boy. I mean, first of all, you're playing for Owen Turtenwald to make a huge blunder, which, I mean, okay, sure, you should play to it.
It would be a spectacular mistake for a casual player to throw this game away. You're not going to see Owen Turtenwald make a mistake on that level.
So if Owen finds basic mountain fiery impulse off this Painful Truths, he's alive. That doesn't work, and Owen Turtenwald is going to win the match 2-1.
Yeah, and again, the only thing Todd could really do that, he had 2 things he could have changed. Could have possibly mulliganed, could have possibly cast Painful Truce earlier. It's not clear if either of those are winning lines, but, you know, things didn't end up breaking Todd's way. Ended up stumbling on mana with that hand, didn't really have red spells. Really just drew too many blue spells into Disdainful Strokes and got run over.
Yeah, the hand was all late game.